Hey guys, sorry it's been so long since I've uploaded a video. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, I was planning on uploading a video before the new year ended. However, I got caught up with, the family and other things like that, and the new video game that I got is for Christmas as well, Jedi Fallen Order. So I pretty much have been playing that. Really been enjoying this game. Really good game. EA pretty much redeemed themselves when it comes to the Star Wars license, because with this game, with the right people and the right talent, they know what they're doing. I think it's a fun game. If you haven't played this game, I recommend it. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that. So, this video is going to be a bit unconventional from my usual videos, because usually I do singular film reviews and just give my general thoughts on them and give them a score. This video is going to be a bit different, as I'm going to be going over my general thoughts on all the films that I saw in 2019 and all the films that I'm planning on seeing in 2020. So, let's go down month by month. Starting in January, we have Glass. Now, with this, my thoughts really haven't changed on it. I still think it's alright. Not the best conclusion, I will admit, but I really don't think the fact that it's as bad as everybody else is making it out to be. There are definitely some lines of dialogue that definitely don't make a lot of sense, or other things like that. But for the most part, I did enjoy Glass, and I still think it's okay, and I still stick by my 6 that I gave it. Next up is Lego Movie 2. Once again, not much has changed. I'm pretty sure I gave that one an 8.5 when that came out. Once again, I'm going to have to remain the same with that one. Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, still sticking by my 8, and I also currently, if you have no idea what this giant and heavy box that I have here, this is essentially a collection of all the original Battle Angel Alitas in one giant thing. In fact, this one here actually contained the first 2 volumes, which was the basis for the actual movie, with the motorball elements being taken from volumes 3 and 4. So, yeah. Once again, I still stick by my previous score that I gave on that one, which is an 8, I believe. But yeah, March. Next up we have Captain Marvel. Yeah, I ended up rewatching it not too long ago, and I still think it's probably one of the more Marvel movies. Like, it's not terrible by any means necessarily. Like, there are a lot of really great moments in there. The action sequence towards the end is actually really cool to see Carol let loose and control her powers. Seeing a digitally de-aged Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury was really cool. And I really enjoyed Ben Mendelsohn as Talos, the main sort of villain of the movie. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I still think the fact that it's pretty much just So, I think I'm gonna remember giving it like maybe a 7 or a 7.5. I'm pretty much sticking with the 7.5 or maybe I'm pretty much gonna stick to those guns and stick with maybe the 7.5, 8 if I'm feeling generous. So yeah. Now we move on to April with Shazam. Still really love the film. Really think the fact that it's an absolute fun superhero film. Really looking forward to when the sequel comes out in April of 2022. So yeah. Gave that one a 9 out of 10. Score still stays the same. Endgame. Yeah. This isn't a movie that I usually rewatch too often for obvious reasons, but yeah, I still really do enjoy Endgame, and I still think the fact that I still stick by the 10 that I still gave it, because I think that for what it is trying to do, wrapping up not only the events of Infinity War, but also the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, I still think the fact that it pulled it off spectacularly. Next up, we have the films that came out in May, starting with Detective Pikachu, which was, I still think the fact that it's still the first decent video game adaptation that we've actually gotten. Like, this is still the first video game adaptation I think that is actually good. There are ones that, of course, debatably good, like Mortal Kombat and the Silent Hill film, but for the most part, this is probably a really good film, with an asterisk being if you're a fan of the source material. Which, I'm not the biggest fan of Pokemon, but I still was able to get some enjoyment out of it. But yeah, if I remember correctly, I think I gave it either 7.5 or 8, and I still stick by that. Next up, we have John Wick Chapter 3. Yeah, a lot of these are pretty much going to be nothing, as my score really hasn't changed for a lot of these. Looking back on it, if I could be able to reevaluate my scores that I gave for all the John Wick films, for the first one, I think I'd probably give it a 7.5. The second one, I would give it an 8, and the third one, I would give it an 8.5. But yeah, now we move on to Aladdin, which if I remember correctly, I gave it a 6, and that's also the score that I'm still sticking with, because I still think the fact that it's alright, you know. I think the fact that the actors who play Aladdin and Jasmine are both did really well. Will Smith as the genie was obviously the highlight, but for the most part, it really wasn't all that necessary, to be completely honest, which we'll get to in a bit with another Disney live-action remake. Next up, we have two films that came out on the weekend of May 31st, and I saw both of them, one of them being the first ever Thursday night preview that I ever saw for a movie, which would be Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I saw Rocketman on opening day. So, that's cool. Yeah, I still think the fact that Godzilla King of the Monsters is okay. I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I gave it like an 8.5 last time I reviewed it, but that was only because I was acting a bit defensive because of all the negative reviews that I saw it was getting, and I very much have sort of a reactionary thing in which I will get really... Whenever I see stuff like Godzilla or something like that or Star Wars getting really negative reviews, I'll sort of have defenses up for that one. But yeah, looking back on it, I think the fact that it's probably not as great as I remember it to be, I still think it's a lot of fun, and so I'm probably still going to stick with either 7 or 7.5. Rocketman I still think is probably one of my favorite films of the year. In fact, if I could just go out the way, here are my favorite films of 2019 in no particular order. They are Shazam, Endgame, Rocketman, Spider-Man Far From Home, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Doctor Sleep, Jojo Rabbit, Dolomite Is My Name, Knives Out, The Irishman, Marriage Story. Hold on, I'm trying to see if I'm missing any ones. I don't know if I mentioned A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, but, yeah. And I will state for an honorable mention, I will give it to Rise of Skywalker, because I still did really like that movie, but I realized that on the rewatch, there were a lot more problems present than I remember, but yeah. We'll get to that in a bit. But anyways. The only film I saw that came out in June was Dark Phoenix, and I still stand by the fact that I still stand by my 6. I still think the fact that it is okay. For a conclusion to the Fox X-Men era of films, it's not great. But as its own standalone film, it is perfectly fine. It's essentially just a remake of X-Men The Last Stand, although I would recommend watching Last Stand because there's a lot more really cool elements to it, because, you got Kelsey Grammer as Beast, you got incredible moments like Magneto lifting up the Golden Gate Bridge. That moment was awesome. There were absolutely amazing over-the-top action sequences. It was really fun. But yeah, for the most part, I still think the fact that they were sort of on equal footing, but if I really had to pick one, I'd pick Last Stand. But I don't hate Dark Phoenix. I still think the fact that the cast obviously was trying to do the best job that they could given the material, and I still think the fact that the score by Hans Zimmer is actually not all that bad. So yeah, still stick by my 6. Then we have on to Spider-Man Far From Home. Still really enjoy Far From Home. I think it's, when it comes to the live-action Spider-Man films, like, overall, I still think Spider-Verse is still the best Spider-Man film, but when it comes to the live-action ones, I still think the fact that the MCU ones are the best that they could possibly be. No disrespect to the Sam Raimi films, I still really enjoy those ones. It's just I personally like the MCU ones a little bit more. So yeah, I still stick by my score of a 9. Oh yeah, I completely forgot I saw Toy Story 4 in June. Still really enjoy that film. Moving on. Now we move on to Lion King. Looking back on it, I realize, while it is technically impressive, the cast is great. The cast they got for this is great. Donald Glover, Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner. You got James Earl Jones coming back. You also got, I think it was John Oliver and Beyonce. I think that one pretty much sums it up right there. You got Beyonce, but looking back at it, I realized the fact that, yeah, it's not great. So, I'm pretty sure I gave that one a 7, but I'm going to have to bump that down to about a 5 because there are some decent elements in there, but yeah, man, it's just the exact same thing again. Just 30 minutes longer and animals that can't even emote. So now we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I still really do enjoy that film. Think it's not Tarantino's best film. I think Reservoir Dogs I think Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Basterds are probably better. But I still really did enjoy this one, and it's still my personal favorite of Tarantino because I absolutely love the sort of homages that he had to classic Hollywood in there, and Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt were both great in the film, so yeah. Then we have Hobbs and Shaw, still stand by that 7 that I gave it. Rambo, still stick by the 6 or 6.5 that I gave it. Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I did see Jay and Silent Bob reboot with the Fathom event showings that back in like October, but I'm not gonna have a review of it come up until February because I'm planning on seeing the Jay and Silent Bob reboot roadshow. So I'm gonna see this live in a packed theater with so many Kevin Smith fans there. In fact, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes are actually going to be heading, I'm not gonna say where, but they'll be heading somewhere in North Carolina. And they're going to be doing a Q&A afterwards, and I cannot wait to ask them my question, because I'm a huge fan of Kevin Smith. I love Kevin Smith. When he does something good, when he does something that's really good, it's really good. But yeah, I just love the View Askew universe, as it's called, and I'm really looking forward to expressing my thoughts when the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot Roadshow heads to North Carolina. But anyways, Zombieland Double Tap. Just think that one's okay. Jojo Rabbit. Still really love that film. Taika Waititi made an incredible film, and I actually legitimately think the fact that it's got some serious contention for the Oscars. But here's what I was not expecting. I was not expecting my video about Taika Waititi playing Adolf Hitler. That is my most popular video, folks. At around 65 views, which is not a lot considering all like the massive YouTubers like David Dobrik make over millions of views. But for me, that's a pretty huge landmark, the fact that 65 people took the time out of their day to watch my video. I wonder if Taika Waititi was one of them though. Whatever. But yeah, still really enjoy Jojo Rabbit. Now we move on to Joker. Oh yeah, I forgot about It Chapter 2. Still think it's okay, so still stick by my 7. Yeah, next up, Dolomite Is My Name. Think that film is great. Eddie Murphy made an incredible comeback role with said film. I think I probably liked it a little bit more than probably a lot of people probably did. Most people did. But that's only because I'm a huge fan of movies that are about making movies. In fact, two of my top 10 all-time favorite films are American Movie and Ed Wood, which are both movies about making movies. And in fact, I'm pretty sure if you were to expand that list to top 15, The Disaster Artist would also be in there too. But yeah, really did enjoy Dolomite Is My Name. Now we move on to November. Did not see Terminator Dark Fate. Planning on rectifying that when that comes out on home media. Actually heard that one was decent. Bombed at the box office though, but heard it was decent. Next up we have Dr. Sleep, which Dr. Sleep is actually surprisingly enough that was probably the biggest surprise for me personally of 2019, because let me establish the idea behind Dr. Sleep. It's a sequel. You're making an adaptation of a novel that is a sequel to another novel called The Shining. But you're trying to be able to make an adaptation of that book while also trying to be a sequel to the Stanley Kubrick Shining. How exactly do you pull that off? And, well, Mike Flanagan actually did a really great job with that, and I still stick by the 9 that I gave it because I think it's a great film. Frozen 2, still think that one is still okay. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, thought that was really good, really nice. I mean, it's Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. You really can't go wrong with that, but yeah. Knives Out still think is really good. However, I'm making a slight alteration to the score there by changing it to a 9 instead of an 8.5. Really did enjoy that one. The Irishman. Once again, I still really do enjoy The Irishman. However, I have not gone back to rewatch it because it's 3.5 hours long, obviously. But yeah, I still really do enjoy the film. I think the fact that it's great having a new Martin Scorsese film come out with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci all in the same film. Still think it's really great, so yeah. Marriage Story, still thinking the fact that it's really great. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson probably gave some of the best performances of this year, and probably some of the best performances in general that I've seen. And it very much captures a very real thing that people go through. Divorce can be a very difficult thing, a very tedious thing to go through. But yeah, I really did enjoy Marriage Story. Jumanji: The Next Level, still think that one is okay. Really did enjoy it though. Really good fun time at the theater, so if you got nothing else to do, go see it, I guess. Uncut Gems, I did not actually do a review for that one, but yeah, I think the fact that it's actually surprisingly a really great film. Adam Sandler was able to pull off a really great performance in this, and yeah, this actually might have some serious contention for the Oscars as well, so really did enjoy that one. So, 9. Next up we have Spies in Disguise, which was the last animated film to come out of 2019. Really glad the fact that this one ended up coming out on Christmas Day, because if it didn't, then the last animated film of 2019 and of the decade would have been Playmobil. Yeah. I think the fact that it's a nice animated movie. Not the best animated film to come out this year, but I still really did enjoy it. Will Smith and Tom Holland were obviously the highlights of the film. But not only that, but the voice cast actually did a really good job with the material that they were given, and there actually are some there were surprisingly some really good jokes in there as well, but yeah, I really did enjoy Spies in Disguise, so I'd give it a 7. Star Wars, I already did literally a re-review on with my spoiler talk for it. Still stick by the 8.5 that I give it. Not the best conclusion to the Skywalker saga or the sequel trilogy, but still think the fact that it was a fine conclusion. However, there were 2 movies that I wanted to see that ended up having limited releases in 2019, but are not going to be playing in any theaters near me until around January 10th. And those 2 films are Just Mercy and 1917. You will see a review of 1917 from me next week, but Just Mercy, you may have to wait a little bit longer on that one. I've heard really great things about both of these films. Unfortunately, did not have any of them play at a theater near me until next week. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. So now that we've pretty much gone through all of these, now I should probably give you a list of films that I am planning on seeing in 2020. Now I will be throwing in, once again, I have split this off into 2 lists. Ones that I'm definitely 100%, ones I'm definitely seeing, and ones that I maybe will see if I have the time. I actually will probably include a couple of the ones from the maybe will see in here just because. But yeah, here are the ones on the definitely will see list. They are Bad Boys for Life, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, the Invisible Man remake from Blumhouse and with Elizabeth Moss, the 2 Pixar films coming out that year, Onward and Soul, The New Mutants, which if this video ends up coming out by at least the weekend of January 4th through 5th, then by that point I'm pretty much, we haven't gotten a New Mutants trailer in a long while, but supposedly we will be getting one on January 6th, so yeah. Next up we have No Time to Die, which is the 25th James Bond film. We got Black Widow, Fast and Furious 9, Wonder Woman 1984, Top Gun Maverick, Free Guy, which Free Guy was actually a film the fact that I knew about, but I really wasn't that interested in it until I saw the trailer for it. When I saw the trailer for it, it somehow became one of my most anticipated movies of 2020 from one trailer, which is really impressive. Then there's Ghostbusters Afterlife, Tenet, which is the latest film from Christopher Nolan, which stars John David Washington, who is, fun fact, Denzel Washington's son, which is actually really cool. The 2 Sony Pictures, the 2 Sony Marvel movies coming out that year, which are Morbius and Venom 2. Bill and Ted Face the Music, Halloween Kills, The Eternals, which is another Marvel Studios production, Godzilla vs. Kong, which got delayed from March 13th to November 20th of 2020, and Dune, which will be coming out on December 18th. Now, a couple of films from the maybe we'll see list that I've decided to include on here are Sonic the Hedgehog, for obvious reasons, Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, the live-action remake of Mulan, A Quiet Place Part 2, Scoob, Jungle Cruise with The Rock, Last Night in Soho, which is the first horror film to be done by Edgar Wright, Coming to America, West Side Story, and The Tomorrow War. Now, these are all films that have confirmed set release dates. The three next ones I'm going to be talking about are going to be ones that actually don't have release dates, but are supposed to be coming out in 2020. And funny enough, they're all Tom Holland films, I should also mention. And those films are The Devil All the Time, which is a Netflix original film, which also has him and Robert Pattinson in it, and Jake Gyllenhaal is also producing it. Chaos Walking, which was based off of a book. The film is being done by Doug Liman, who did Edge of Tomorrow, and stars Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Was supposed to come out last year, but ended up having disastrous test screenings, so they delayed it to 2020 for reshoots. And then there's another one called Cherry, which is being directed by the Russo brothers, and it stars Tom Holland. And now Tom Holland is playing, I think, either Nico Walker or Cherry, which I don't know which one, but he'll be playing the title character, in which he is an Iraq veteran who suffers from an opioid addiction, and in order to fuel that addiction, he has to resort to robbing banks. That is actually semi-autobiographical, by the way, because Nico Walker actually did get arrested for robbing banks, and he ended up writing that book while he was in prison. In fact, that movie is even the reason why Tom Holland ended up having to shave his hair, because he had to be able to get it for the role. But yeah, this is essentially a look back on all the films that I saw in 2019, and this is a little look forward to all the films that I'm planning on seeing in 2020. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned, like I said, next week for reviews based. Look for the review of 1917 that I'm planning on doing, and maybe sometime later on for a Just Mercy review. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, stay gold.